term legendary is used to give gravitas to permanents that depict focal characters, locations, and even events on the cardboard. But what makes a creature card legendary? And are there any creatures that we think deserve to be elevated to that status? Welcome to Magic the Flavouring, the Magic the Gathering podcast, where we talk about all things Magic flavour design and lore. I'm your host, Andy Mann.
Hello, Nathan Cancel.
And again, that took...
What a legendary intro that was.
Legendary intro, which took me about 5 takes to get on that one.
Yeah. I was writing the name of the episode as Legend, Wait For It, Derry, and not realising I'd have to wait so long for the episode.
Yeah, we might get sued by How I Met Your Mother.
No, that's in my internal notes. We're not gonna...
Oh, okay.
We're not gonna actually steal that.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, we have just said it on live air, but that's fine.
Wait, they can't TM words.
They can try.
It's a slogan, but we're not like printing it in print. Always.
That's true. Hello, welcome to the show, guys. So, you might notice a little bit of a change in sound quality. We are not in our usual recording space today, so we're a little bit echoey. You also might hear some planes going overhead. So, we can only apologise about that. But it was either this or we don't record for a week.
It's funny that we're not actually in quarantine, but we are literally in an escape room.
Yeah, we're sat in my work. I'm just in a break at work at the moment, which we've decided to take a podcast recording for. And so, so now you know what I do. I run an escape room.
You didn't have to give your information. If you're people, I mean, I've given away my full
name
on
Facebook.
I mean, we're screwed. If they want to find us, they can, but don't travel. Stay inside.
Yeah. So obviously, guys, obviously the world's going a little bit crazy at the moment. A little bit
beginning of the end.
It is a little bit of the beginning of the end, but obviously it's not.
That's fine. We've had some good films and some good games come out in the last year. Just stay at home, knees up.
Yeah, exactly.
Just Eat, Deliveroo. We've got loads of options.
And we'll still be here along with the rest of the Magic content creating world talking about Magic the Gathering until we can't anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Until the costs take over.
Yeah. But we're not here to talk about all that horrible gubbins.
No.
We're here to talk about some lovely gubbins that we want to talk about.
Indeed.
Today we're going to be talking about legendary creatures. Legendary creatures that we think that they're not actually legendary at the moment. They're just maybe plain creatures that we think should have the type legendary attached to them. Because there are plenty of creatures that are very powerful, that aren't legendary. There are plenty of creatures that we always wish that we could have maybe at the head of our commander decks. They're not legendary, and we're too chicken just to ask our play group, like a bunch of adults, whether we can have them at the head of our commander decks. Please, can we have fun? I'm not doing that.
James's house
it's
tonight,
awkward.
Please?
No, it's too awkward. I'm not doing it. I'm going to play by the rules and sit here and stew. There are all these creatures that I think pretty much every Magic player has that they think, that would be a sick legendary creature. Whether it's for gameplay reasons, whether it's for flavour reasons,
colour reasons as well.
Colour reasons, I
guess there are some creatures out there that people would like to be legendary because it gets like that one more colour of their like sacrifice effect.
100%. Yeah, so there's plenty of things. So these are just our ones, and we're going to explain them out to you. And then if you agree, fine. If not, fine, I suppose. Right? Yeah, you do you.
Jeez.
You just have to disagree with everything that we say.
Being entitled to your opinions, how dare you?
I know. So, Nathan, you've been taking the lead on this one, mate. Yeah, so kick us off.
So we're looking at the fact, right, so when we looked at Planeswalkers, how many did we say there were? 200? Was it 200? Something like that. Was like
I don't listen to our content.
Yeah. Whereas with legendary creatures, we are now currently at 926.
926?
926.
Is that just creatures or is that permanents?
Legendary creatures.
Right.
I didn't look up permanents, so I haven't looked up like lands, enchantments, even the sorceries that came out in Dominaria. I haven't counted any of those.
Artifacts?
No. I think unless there is a legendary artifact creature, then yeah. But this is just when I put through Scryfall, it gave me a number, and the number was 926. So actually less than I thought it'd be, considering how many Planeswalkers we have.
Considering we've had whole sets where you have, like, say, Legends, Dominaria, and Kamigawa that revolve around Legendary as a mechanic. Yeah,
well, the thing is, so we've got, if we're looking at the next year, we've obviously got the Legends set coming out. Or the EDH,
it's called Commander Legends?
Yeah, Commander Legends, exactly. So that's going to be, between that, all of the extra Commander products that are coming out alongside the sets that we've got coming out, and core sets, everything. If you look at all the different content that's been coming out between here and the end of the year, we're looking at probably like another 120 Legends, which, if you can think about that, that's over a 10% increase in 1 year.
Yeah.
Which is absurd.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, there's a thing on kind of going around at the moment of do we wait as EDH brewers? Do we wait until we get to the Legend set and think? Because there's gonna be so many different options.
I am.
Yeah. And
there have been plenty of brews, even brews where I'm like, I don't even have to invest that much money to do it, but I know that if so for example, I've always wanted to build a Grand Warlord Rudder deck.
Yeah.
And I have the bits to do it, but I don't really have the emotional or monetary time to finish that deck off by the time Commander Legends comes out and I think, holy crap, there's a new Gruul Legendary that's super cool and I really want to build. So it's stopping me from doing it.
Yeah. Well, I think that the two of us are we're much more inclined to build around like a commander. We'll see a legendary creature and go, yeah, okay, I want to build a deck around.
Yeah, I have a real affinity with
rather
the
than going
creatures
like, I want to build another, say, Dimir control deck that say like. Instead of using like mechanical concepts for our decks, we tend to use like the card itself rather than going, maybe I want to build a more stacksy deck, and then you find a commander that fits to that.
I think it's true. I do sometimes see a gap. I mean, last week we spoke about our flavor decks, and Grenzo definitely filled a gap when I first built him. But I only kept Grenzo together because of the emotional attachment I built to that character moving forward.
So I mean, like talking about in terms of that, then. So legends tend to be obviously rules wise, legendary creatures are unique in terms of you can't have more than one of the same one on the table at the same time. Throughout the years of Magic, we've had some changes of where if you had one, then your opponent couldn't even play one onto the board. You then moved into if you had one, your opponent had one, they would both be put into the graveyard. And then it was that one would have to be put into the graveyard. Obviously, if you played one against theirs, it would be a good bit of removal. If you played one on your own side, you'd be able to, and you could lose the first one, the second one. It had like a good ETB effect or something like that. So that uniqueness is kind of pretty much like what defines them. Because if we look at when legendary creatures first came out, it was in the set Legends. Remarkably, this is where the Elder Dragons were first printed, which is the inception of our format that we love so much in Commander. The Legends in that set kind of got split into two. You either had the vanilla Legends like, say, Jedit Ojedin, which is basically just like the basic vanilla creatures that would be like, say, 6-7 mana. They have a lot of flavor text on, but they're essentially just a 5/5 for 7 or something like that.
They're like a storyboard, right?
Yeah, essentially. The idea is they're like conceptual characters that it wasn't necessarily supposed to be like, you're top-downing this person. You haven't got an amazing idea for some vampire legend. You build everything around the card around them. It's more that, okay, we're just prefacing with a creature name and some story. And essentially, the story is the important part to these characters because they do tend to have about 6-7 lines of flavor text.
But did most of these characters have actual story attributed to them?
Well,
Blackblade
Blackblade did for sure. Some more than others. There are some that barely have any, like a Lady of the Mountain and things like that don't necessarily have like a huge amount of story relevance. But the fact that there's one of the only sets that really dealt with, I mean, obviously it was introducing them in the first place, but it had a load of them. If you look back, I mean, there's a few people that will play like, I don't know, like a red-green deck and have like one of the red-green legends at the helm because it doesn't matter whatever the legendary creature is for the commander. So they chose one of the more obscure ones. I mean, most of these cards from Legends are quite expensive because they're really hard to get hold of now. So like the good one, like Hazazon Tamar, which creates a load of sand, 1/1 sand tokens based on the number of lands that you have.
Yep.
Those kinds of creatures that actually do something decent. A lot more expensive. Angus Mackenzie, very expensive.
Yep.
Same kind of thing of where they're really obscure, they're hard to get hold of. And that's what I mean when I say that Legends introduced a bunch of vanilla legends with cool flavor, and then they also have brought in a load of more interesting legends that actually had like unique effects that hadn't been seen before. Then if you move throughout the sets, then we get to like say Kamigawa, where they introduced 118 new legends. And the thing about Kamigawa is it moved it into being a super type. So they start before that. It would be summoning a legend. A legend would not necessarily like be a creature type. It'd almost be like a lord. Like so, Lord of Atlantis is you're summoning a lord, whereas you weren't necessarily summoning a merfolk. You were summoning a lord.
Okay, yeah.
So then it moved the type from being that you're summoning a legend to being a legendary creature, and then they could do whatever with the extra types on the back of it. Obviously, a lot of these have been changed by errata to have creature types that fit more to their character, so they can be used in a broader context.
So yeah, it's funny. I never really understood the distinction between that. Obviously, I knew that older Magic cards use the format of summon whatever.
Yeah.
But people spoke about like super types. And I always used to kind of nod my head and go, oh yeah, sure, yeah, I play Magic the Gathering. I like werewolves. And yeah, never really know what the fuck a super type was. But yeah, you just explain it to me.
Yeah. So and it kind of changed a little bit because I used to try and use Saber Tavok in my Rakdos deck to try and destroy, because it has a tap ability to destroy target legend. And the annoying thing about that is that specifically means legendary creature, so it's been errata to do so, because I thought I could get rid of legendary enchantments, like screw your Great Henge, that's getting destroyed, that kind of thing. Turns out, no. The reason why...
Turns out, you can't be that much of a prick.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're playing Great Henge against me, I don't think I'm the prick in the equation here.
Look, just because I have 3 Great Henges and you have 0...
I didn't even know you had 3, I thought you had 2. So
nah, I pulled one in a promo booster I won at Theros pre-release.
Let's let your pretension sit for a moment there, shall we?
Has a little Planeswalker stamp and everything.
Great, fantastic, awesome. Whereas other cards like, say, Captain Sisay state legendary card, so you could get any card that was legendary, be it land, sorcery, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Which I've used a great effect, looping Urza's Ruinous Blast out of your graveyard using Bow of Nylia.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Highly recommend that.
It's so much fun. I love that deck.
And then obviously moving a little bit past that, then we had them
shitty. Fucking.
Could you stop? Could you chill?
What?
Calm down.
I'm in a mood.
So now we're the pressures of the world are getting to Andy. Bless him. That's right. We're going to try and placate him. And then the other big thing moving forwards through the history of Magic was when mythic rarity was introduced. Now, typically, you'd expect most legends, in the same way you'd expect most planeswalkers. Of course, we've since then bucked the trend a little. You'd expect most legends to be mythic. Because of their mythical status. Myths and legends are almost synonymous as words. So you'd expect your mythical rarity cards to be the legendary creatures of your sets. Obviously, that doesn't always naturally follow form. Even in Kamigawa, we had our first uncommon legends in the Brothers Yamakaze. We've had uncommon legends in Dominaria, with obviously to help with the legend in every pack. What's the word I'm looking for? Not trope. A cute thing. Gimmick. Gimmick. That was the word.
I didn't help you out there at all.
No,
did I?
You just
I had no idea what you were reaching for. I'm sorry.
And then we've also seen since rare and uncommon planeswalkers as well. So clearly they're willing to be more flexible. They don't need to make it feel like they're putting all of their the interest in everything up like a big plinth. They're not unattainable and unreachable. Even though I would argue that maybe they should be. But what makes a creature legendary? Andy, what makes a creature legendary?
The legendary subtype.
I mean, yeah, okay, but what to you?
Shit, yeah.
Did you actually just think that was what I was asking?
Nah, I'm fucking with you. So yeah, what makes like in my heart of hearts?
Yeah, so what would be the difference between like a powerful card and a legendary card? Yeah. Or what would you expect from a legendary creature?
So okay, right, yeah. Without I'm being very belligerent to say. So legendary creatures or like legendary permanents in general, because say you get legends of everything. Mm-hmm. It's like I said in the cold intro. For me, they have to have some significance. Like when we spoke about planeswalkers a few years ago.
In our younger years.
Yeah, in our younger years, before I was in a mood. Which was 29 years ago. Like the planeswalkers are the kind of like protagonists of the story, right? But I do expect that of legendary stuff as well. But legendary, because now planeswalkers are legendary, it's kind of come full circle. But legendary permanents, whether it's a land or a creature or an artifact or a vehicle, like in Kaladesh, I think they have to have some kind of gravitas beyond them just being like a really good version of that creature. Mm-hmm. Whether that's storyline or not, I don't necessarily know that necessarily has to be the case. So, for example, if you have like a good example of a creature that is a really immense creature, but I wouldn't necessarily think it should be legendary, is say something like Thing in the Ice, where it's this big, immense, like very splashy, very high concept card, but I wouldn't necessarily think it's so important that it needs the legendary super type. Mm-hmm. Whereas Rexiel, the Rising Deep, which thematically is a very similar idea, is another Kraken, like Thing in the Ice turns into a Kraken, Rexiel's a Leviathan, Kraken-y, HP Lovecrafty thing. Yeah. That has much more gravitas to it. Something like the Heart of Kieran, which is a legendary vehicle, has a really big impetus in the storyline and is kind of like a one of a kind. Yeah. So I kind of feel like that kind of gives it a legendary status.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've got. So the first thing I've written here essentially is unique. I originally wrote unique effect, but let's flip over. So unique status. So in the same way that we kind of mentioned last week about Feldergriff, because it's not listed as being the Feldergriff, it makes it feel less like it's a legendary because it's not the only one of its type. It feels like it's just your average run-of-the-mill Feldergriff. And I guess it kind of comes to a point of like, I don't know, classification of why do you have one human tokens when every single human obviously in Magic has a name. Every single person should be an individual person. Yeah. So in terms of status, you want your king of the village is going to probably likely be a legendary creature. Sure. But then also the baker is only a baker in the village. So and what about the person that makes the dairy guy, because he's got to be legendary. Sure. Right. So realistically, I guess the whole point is that if it's the status of the plane, right? Isn't it the status where you are? Like, and I guess it can be a little what's the difference, say, between the Thing in the Ice and say Rexiel the Risen Deep? I guess there might be more of these awoken horrors out there somewhere. Who knows? And I guess maybe sometimes mechanically you might have reasons to flex around with them. Moving on to the point of being that I guess you also don't want the thing. Sometimes you want to you can put effects on legends that are so overpowered or super strong because you can't have more than one of them in play at the same time. Like, I would imagine you don't typically want to have a cheap legendary creature that has a really strong ETB or leaves the battlefield effect, because you promote people wanting to play the second one to legend rule the other one out of play to get the effect of it. Like things like Questing Beast, for example, kind of gets away with being so unbelievably powerful and having every single ability that's known to man on it, because you can't have more than one in play at the same time.
Yeah, sure.
It's like, say, for example, like Izumaru. Izumaru is a good example of how...
Hound of Kondo.
Yeah, you can get away with having a 1-mana 2/2 because it's legendary. You can't have more than one in play at the same time. And that's where the legendary status, as much as he was an important character and, a very good boy, the fact that you can use the legendary status of the card mechanically almost to limit his functionality.
Do you know what? There's going to be a balancing out though, because you're 100% right, and like that is the theory, right? But have you? I can't. Well, I don't have any way to back this up. I have no evidence and I have no references, so this isn't a very good point. But I'm going to make it anyway. I have in my gut felt that they've made some creatures that aren't legendary, or they've made creatures that are legendary. Sorry. Not as powerful maybe as their direct counterparts in a set, because they know that commander players will be playing these things as the head of their deck. Yeah. So a lot of legendary creatures now, I mean, they've done the Theros gods, but the Theros gods have like activation costs and all that kind of thing. Giving things like hexproof or indestructible or something absurd, they're starting to not necessarily give every legendary under the sun.
Carnage Tyrant, if it was legendary, would be really obnoxious.
Which you'd think, again, like talking about this trope,
because, you can't
the
count
Carnage
command.
Tyrant.
Yeah.
It's a tyrant.
Yeah.
It has to be at least...
But then, in my mind, what makes it more awesome is the fact that if it's not legendary, you could have a fleet of those go into war. Imagine having 6 Carnage Tyrants coming at you.
But then
with Zakama in the background.
But Carnage Tyrants doesn't sound anywhere near as scary as the Carnage Tyrant.
In a world of Zakamas and Zatalpas, I don't think that a Carnage Tyrant's actually that impressive. No. When you've got this pterodactyl across the horizon. I put the P in deliberately, by the way, guys. I don't actually know it's pterodactyl.
Out of all of those elder dinosaurs, Zatalpa is
the most ridiculous. Looks ridiculous. That beak is huge.
Well, it's just
I've seen those birds. I've seen birds that have similar bills try and catch fish off the sea, and that thing, if that goes across your field, you ain't got nothing left.
Well, just like the scaling of it, like obviously they're all huge and they're all scary, but like the card art in that one, where it's someone on like a bridge or a turret on a Razka, and you've got Zatalpas like flapping away.
Where the hell was this thing before it came out anyway?
If that came over the horizon, I think I'd disappear into my own anus. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, right.
Whereas all the other ones,
you can't escape
scary,
it as well. It takes up half the sky.
Like Golter, I don't fucking care. It's just. Yeah. All T-Rexes are big. It's a shit. That's like a giant
Zatalpa looks real scary. Yeah, so I guess so yeah, moving back to like, so what makes a creature legendary? I guess unique effects as well. I think if there's something that hasn't really been done before, or usually this comes from what I like to call top-down building of legends. So where you have someone like Dalakos or Haxos, if we're looking at Theros, the latest Theros set, of where you have, let's make an Achilles character. And they find a really flavorful way that works within the game, kind of like what we talked about with Ginger Brute, where the flavor and the card all work, and the mechanics and the flavor work succinctly together to make something that's better than the sum of its parts.
Yes.
Haktos is the same, of where they had to come up with a really unique ability to properly show off the Achilles heel effect of the character that is trying to trope. So you ended up with this very unique character because they were going top down. So with Dalakos, of where you're going to start and it goes well. I mean, it's an analog for I can't remember his name now. The guy who built the wings.
Daedalus.
Icarus. Yeah, Daedalus, thank you. So obviously you wanted to be something to do with equipment, and it obviously granted the thing that it was that he gave the wings to, like impetus, so he gave the haste in the flight. So it makes sense, and it's all very succinct. The other way you can do it, I mean, this is where I think cards like, say, Questing Beast come from. Questing Beast is a bit difficult because this is another one that we'll talk about a little bit later. But bottom-up effects of where you have something that mechanically is very, very strong, that does a thing that you maybe want in the set. Maybe it's your flagship of a certain new mechanic or whatever, and you build it so strong that you kind of go, well, if it's this strong and it's powerful, we're going to make it a mythic. Why not assign it one of the characters that's from the story to give it even more elevation? We can give it the legendary status, then people can play it as a commander. It also means that we can't have like 3 or 4 of them sitting in play at once, dominating the battlefield. That for me is the other way around. That can make a card feel legendary. It doesn't matter about the lore around it. It matters about the card itself. Does something so absolutely bonkers that it just feels legendary.
Yeah.
And obviously this is very subjective. Wizards don't get to tell us that it's subjective. They tell us whether a creature's legendary or not. But, we're going to argue back and forth about this. And maybe sometimes, I think the biggest caveat going forward is I think they've got very good at making each legend at least feel somewhat unique. The problem is, because now legends are so abundant, they don't feel as special. But I feel like they make every card still... It's very hard to argue any of the recent legends shouldn't be legendary.
Yeah, I guess. I agree, because they've printed a lot of legendary creatures. The fact that when one comes out, you're less like, holy crap, that's a legendary creature. I would say, however, I think it's a better decision to sacrifice that sense of, oh, it's special,
Or, yeah.
than to use the legendary creature status as a way to tell stories per plane.
Yeah.
You couldn't have done Eldraine without having lots of legendary creatures. You couldn't have done Theros without having lots of legendary creatures. It's just kind of, it's maybe a bit of a miss that they did them back to back. Something like Zendikar can have like 4 or 5 legends because it's not necessarily about them.
Yeah.
You know.
I guess it's also a good way to give more and more, like, to pile a load of potential lore into a set without having to put too much effort in. Like we got to see all the different 5 knights in Eldraine, and there was a lot of like other bits where you can kind of just throw characters down that make people go, oh, that's interesting, maybe we can look into them. And yeah, it kind of annoys some people. There's no lore around Sir Conrad, for example. Like, what makes him the Grim? You know,
What's up with that fucking skull he's got?
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, it does make your plane feel more rich, especially if we don't have as much time to stay on planes as we used to, and we're just bouncing in, bouncing out. I like the idea that they kind of just go, here loads of stuff. We might not actually follow up on a lot of it, but it gives you something, it gives you options to pull at, and then obviously you'll still have the 3 or 4 characters that do get their time in the sun, because they will. But I'd like it, obviously, if we move more in towards the legendary creatures having a focus than just the planeswalkers, but that's, you know, a consistent gripe.
Maybe we'll get more lore slides.
Yeah, that'd be, great.
I can't wait for my next 200-word blurb.
I mean, I would always say there's nothing wrong with more stuff, but when it's at the behest of other stuff that doesn't actually come out, then yeah, maybe just give us both.
That's what we call less stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Right, so God, you are so bitter today.
Oh man,
it's like I like it. It's good. This
is
firing
better.
me up. Right, so legends that shouldn't be legends. Now, I feel like this category is a little bit harder than the second category, which, shockingly, is non-legends that should be legends.
Yeah.
Who saw that coming? But I find, again, going back to that previous statement of, because they've got very good at designing legends and being very comfortable at producing a lot of them. Like, I didn't feel like any of the legends of Dominaria were bad.
Nope.
I felt like they all did a thing. They all worked. Even Valduk, which is like the whole equipment making elements of great. Like you managed to.
His name's very fun to sing.
It is
Valduk.
See, for me, just in my mind, I just hear Mighty Ducks in my head whenever I hear Valduk, and I'm just like, no, I just need an altar of him as like Uncle Scrooge with all of his different weapons around him, just hoarding them.
You mean the cartoon, the Mighty Ducks?
Yeah, hell yeah. Or DuckTales.
I haven't thought.
Oh no! Sorry, no. I was thinking DuckTales. not Mighty Ducks.
There is a cartoon of the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, but I think Mighty Ducks is also a sports thing. Yeah. Anyway,
it's about hockey.
Yeah, I meant
about the hockey team.
Yeah, I meant
Mighty Ducks.
I meant DuckTales. Which, by the way, go and listen to the theme song. It will bring back amazing nostalgia.
DuckTales.
No, I don't actually know off by heart.
Woo.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Oh fuck! That left me hanging, didn't it? All right.
Good, right, anyway. So
Christ.
So the first one I came to when I'm looking at legends that probably shouldn't be is when you look back at that set legends, I don't think they do that again. I don't think they just make 5/7 vanilla creatures for 7 mana and just go, here's some story behind it. As much as the story is interesting, that's essentially the lore slide, but on the card.
We might get a converted mana cost matters set. That'd be fun.
Well, yeah, okay, great.
I mean, obviously every set's
well,
a
we've
converted
got that.
mana
We've
cost.
recently got that with a recent legend with anything that costs 6 or more can't be counted and costs 1 less. What's his name? That giant, the Storm's Conduit.
Oh,
no, that's Ralph.
Thrix.
That
Thrix.
guy. Yeah,
Storm,
Thrix.
Giant,
the
Genie,
elemental giant thing, that makes your converted mana cost 5.
the one which fucking couldn't give a shit about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, him.
Well, yeah. So you want to use? Yeah, so they have. They've already done a converted mana
All
cost.
right. Well, I
legend
take back
recently.
my glib comment then.
So I think the legends probably. I don't think they do that again. I don't think they just do a load of like vanilla creatures. And realistically, I don't think it's so easy to pick up on legends that shouldn't be, because even looking through I scrolled through some forums from like back in the day, like 2012 to 2016, where MTG Salvation was still in its absolute prime. RIP. And there's a lot of people that said things like,
"It's back, isn't it?"
Yeah, it is. It's now being. It's been. I don't know how. I don't know if it was crowdfunded, crowdsourced, but yeah, it got repropped back up again, which is good because I don't have to lose my account, which is nice. But even people saying things like Norin the Wary, I'm like, yeah, but since then we've had Perforus come out.
I passed a foil Norin the Wary in my Mystery Booster draft.
That's a shame, because I think he's a very cool card, but this is before Perforus came out and he had a functionality. The thing is, a lot of these legends do a unique ability, and everyone's like, oh, it's crap, doesn't even do anything. I'm like, just wait. There are some that very rightly should not be legendary because they just do nonsense. They don't even do anything half decent. But the thing is also with these, a lot of these cards are from quite long ago. Like, they're not from recent sets.
All right, hit me.
So the first one that I have, and I don't have very many, are the Kirin from Kamigawa. Now, Kamigawa is very much going to be what I call the prime candidate for slapping legendary on anything unique, which they did. They had so many different legends where they gave them, or so many different creatures they gave an interesting ability to, whether it's switch every creature's power and toughness until end of turn, or each player draws an additional 2 cards each turn. And these cards, that's Shinsei, Death Storehouse, and that kind of thing. Like, there are so many that I think it's, I mean, as much as I put in brackets here, although it does offer deck options for EDH, I mean, taking away the fact that no matter what kind of deck you want to build in EDH, there is probably a legend from Kamigawa that will fit that. There was so many legends, it felt like it got to a point of where they just put any number, just any single any single ability that's a little bit strange, like Legendary Landwalk on a 7/3 for 5 mana. Okay, cool, yeah. Fine, you're in the legendary set, so of course that's going to be a legend, but outside of that context, is that actually, does it still carry as a legend now? Not really. I don't think so. So yeah, a lot of the Kamigawa sets like that, but the Kirins especially. And there's a cycle of five spirit legends, and basically they all do a thing whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell. So Celestial Kirin, which the deck I actually really want to build, is 2 white for a 3/3 flying. Whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you destroy all permanents of the same converted mana cost. So you play around with all these really like up and down the mana costs. You can to play all these different spirits that can essentially wipe the board and keep you in control.
See, converted mana cost matters. Spell.
I know, it's almost like that's already been done before. So you've also got this.
I'm a fucking genius.
So this is true across all of the different colours, and like doing a little bit of research, they were important to the set in terms of they had dominion over the different areas of Kamigawa. But apart from that, because they were all just Celestial Kirin or the Flaming Kirin and that kind of thing, it doesn't really feel like. I remember looking at the card, and when I was going through, I only really wanted to build the deck because it shocked me that it was a legendary creature. When I realised, actually, the cogs in my brain started turning of how I could abuse it and turn it into something disgusting and horrible, I was like, actually, that's really cool. But other than that, I remember looking at it being like, it's just a random goat.
Yeah,
it was just a goat. Like, why? And there's a cycle. When I found out there's a cycle of them, goats. I know, but it's not the Celestial Kirin. It's just Celestial Kirin. It doesn't even have like at least Yosai was the Morningstar. It wasn't just the Morning. Even if it was just the Morningstar, it'd be fine. That's like when you've already got a cycle of legendary dragons, you've got legendary Kirin, and they don't even have names. You know?
Yeah,
it makes them feel especially directly comparable, and this is easy in Kamigawa because there's like a butt ton of legends, 118. So you've got a lot that can feel either not like obviously less powerful than others, or overshadowed by other ones, or in general just not worth putting a legendary stamp on. But it did also give us it was a lore set, so I can kind of understand why they wanted to do this, because the histories of Asian culture obviously were very celebrated.
Like individual spirits as well hold a lot of weight in certain world mythologies, don't they? And like,
because everyone has their own personal house spirits and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So I do understand. Obviously, it's trying to translate the lore, but obviously, to be fair, like considering they did do 118 of them, I know it kind of had a bit of fatigue for some people, but it does again now looking back, because it's long enough ago, that there's probably one or two that at least everyone. There's no way that one person knows every single legend from Kamigawa block off the top of their head. So there's always something to go back and get more interested in, and see if a legend or a creature you haven't seen before and do certain. And you're like, okay, that's pretty cool.
And if you do think you know every legend from Kamigawa's set, you're a fucking liar.
Exactly.
And I hate you.
Yeah, challenging set. How could you prove that? I want you to list them off right now, blindfolded.
But you can't prove that.
No, exactly.
People are liars. Have you met people?
No.
Stop lying. Stop lying about how you can name every legendary from Kamigawa, Simon. That's from Utah.
I really hope there's not a guy from Utah.
We have listeners in Utah. One of them's going to be called Simon.
I really hope his name's Simon.
And he's a fucking liar.
I really... so have you got any legends that you don't think should be...
that I don't think?
Yeah, that you don't... Legendary creatures that you don't think.
I actually didn't prepare for that question.
Because that's what I mean. I find... Right, so this is the thing. I have a buttload of non-legendary creatures that I think should be legendary. We're rolling with that. It's fine. Just talk about my butt a bit. Butt ton, yeah.
I like it.
So, whereas trying to find legends that weren't unique, 'cause this is essentially where it comes down to. I looked through to see if it didn't do something unique or interesting, then I didn't think it should be. Or if it did something that was really, really, really underpowered, I didn't think it should be. And there's a couple of those, and then there's one that I think is really generic that I'm going to talk about as well. But I found it really hard not to find uniqueness on legendaries, because that's essentially what I don't think WotC, apart from that initial legend set, ever allowed themselves not to put something fun and interesting on a legendary stamped card, because
I'm really trying to think hard now.
Exactly, it's really difficult.
Off the top of my head, no. I do think that there are, in general, legendary creatures that maybe just took up slots. I think, like, okay, I can never remember the name. What's the name of the Golgari legend from War of the Spark?
Izomi.
No, that's from guilds.
Karov. It's the elf. It's the elf, and it regenerates.
Storev.
There we go. Storev.
Yeah,
that took a bit of time.
Fuck Storev.
See, I like Storev though.
No, boring.
4 mana 5/4.
Boring. Took up
Break
a slot.
something back.
No.
Didn't have to be legendary.
Didn't have to be legendary.
I like it as a card. Didn't have to be legendary.
Nope.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that one. Fair enough.
There you go.
But I mean, because I was looking at what other people have said, and some people say things again like Norin the Wary or like Iname as one, which is the 8 black green 8/8 spirit that when it comes into play, if you played it from your hand, you can get any other spirit from your deck and put it into play, and then when it goes to the graveyards from play, you can return a spirit card from your graveyard to play. People jib on that because it's a 12 mana 8/8 that has a very, very narrow ability, and because if you play it in Commander and it's not cast from your hand, you don't get your trigger. Yeah. You don't want it to go to the graveyard because it's your Commander, so you don't get the trigger.
So Commander players were unhappy with the way something worked.
That's also shocking.
Specific to their super fucking niche format.
I know, exactly. Well, you've also got the cards like Veldrain of Sengir, which is a 5 black for a 5/5. 1 black, it gains Forest Walk, but gets -3/-0 until end of turn. Now, if you compare that to Vectis Agents, which came out in Alara, which is an artifact creature, 3 blue for a 4/3, and you can give it, for black and blue, you can give it -2/-0 and Death Touch. So the idea is you attack it with a 4 power creature, and they go, well, I don't want to take 4 damage, I'm going to block. You go, well, okay, I drop its power down, I'm going to kill whatever you block with. So a 7 mana 5/5, which, okay, in the time of Homelands is probably not too out of thing, but for an extra 3 mana, you could drop its power by 3 to give it Forest Walk. Right? Just why?
Sounds shit.
Well, the idea is, I guess, the point is that power creep and power differences, especially when you're looking at a card from Homelands, don't carry in the same fashion.
I mean, sure, but all right. So this idea of power creep, I'm not accusing you of sort of propagating this. You're just saying what the actual answer is, which is yes, way that power levels and sort of power creep and stuff. This does affect stuff.
Yeah, you can't criticize things in the same fashion.
Yeah, but also at the same time, it's like looking at really old films, like really sort of cult classic films from say the 70s and 80s, which are just objectively bad. And you think, oh yeah, but just at the time they didn't understand filmmaking. And you think, yeah, but they had eyes and ears and they saw what was going wrong. Are you telling me there weren't a lot of game designers in those rooms that didn't just go, fuck it, with a lot of those legends?
Yeah, well, I guess it's a difference between Crash Bandicoot and Bubsy. Just because a game is old doesn't mean just because a game's old doesn't mean it's automatically good. In the same way, just because a game's old doesn't mean it's going to be bad. Crash is a very perfect example of a game that held to the point of where it got remade and is still having followers. Whereas Bubsy 3D is universally panned as one of the worst games ever made.
Sure.
And it's not because it was an old game, it was because it was an old game and it did bad things.
Yeah, older sensibilities about how what legends are, what a creature is, how powerful it should be. Obviously that factors in.
Yeah.
But then you get loads of old legends that are just incredibly broken in whatever format you play. And then you get other legends that have no text box. And you think, well, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, and I guess the whole point, I mean, especially now we're moving into an age where we want, especially with, the other thing is, big caveat is Commander. Commander means that you have to pay so much more attention to your legendary creatures because someone somewhere out there is going to want to build with it, so you want to make sure it's interesting. And also you don't want it to, again, be either too strong or not strong enough. You want it to have some relevance to the story, but not necessarily, I mean, you can't have too much relevance. But at the same time, you don't want something that's going to be say, Chilene's a bit on the other end of it, because I'd rather Chilene not be a legendary creature because it's so universally powerful and so instinctively, it just naturally produces value and power that you don't need it to be your commander. You could just have it as a random card that you can choose it for. Because otherwise, having that ability to have that in your commander, if anything, is the thing that pushes it over the edge.
Well, see, now this is where we start talking about the function and the form a little bit more, because there are legends that are specifically designed, whether they're in commander sets or they're in brawl decks, which is what a big problem with some of these brawl commanders people have, is that these were custom designed to serve the function which they're serving. Yeah. It's not like the legends from the set legends or from Kamigawa or even from more recent sets where you think someone's picked an obscure card that has the rules text that allows them to play it as their commander to do something weird and bonkers. This is
specifically designed to be your commander and have the inherent value. Both between Korvold and Chulane, you look at them and you go, how could you...
Excuse me.
Cool. So how could you not see that this was going... this is going to be inherently...
Yeah, they might as well have...
They're not broken, but they are just so much higher.
But they could have, for these cards, the rules wouldn't have changed anything, just to have scribbled out the word legendary and just written in the word commander.
Yeah, well, the other criticism people has the number of colours they had, because the other thing about commander is obviously the more colours you add, yes, the harder it is to cast the card in terms of numbers of colours of mana, but the more you can open up your deck to have more options that you can play within it. If you take away a colour from every legendary card, it makes it infinitely better for Commander because it narrows your options. It makes the card choices in the deck like better. It means you don't have as much scope to play with. Like Shudain didn't necessarily need all three of his colours. He could have lost any number of those colours. Probably not white because Simic gets enough goods. Is
it better or worse if you remove a colour?
Better because you don't have. So you have a blue white deck without having to have all the ramp. Or you've got your Selesnya deck without all of the blue counter magic.
Oh, sorry. When you say better, do you mean better as in objectively more powerful, or better as in
better, healthier for
healthier? Sorry.
Format,
That's yeah.
Sorry, not stronger.
Not stronger.
Yeah.
Healthier. It's better to have a strong commander with less colours because it's more dynamic to play.
Yeah, and it's more limiting to your option. It doesn't give you it's not just. Imagine if every legendary creature was just 5 colours. That'd be so boring.
Yeah,
and the idea is the more colours you add to a legendary creature, especially specifically because of commander, the more range you give it. So the more powerful and the more broken it can potentially be.
Sure.
The only other one I had listed for legends that probably shouldn't be is the questing beast. One, because it's not the questing beast. I know we've had this mentioned this a few times.
I mean, everyone's talking about it. It's the talk of the town.
It's questing beast. The fact it was more of an obscure character from the lore anyway is good because it rises into the spotlight. It makes people go and have a look and find out about it. Because people go, oh, I didn't know that the questing beast was a legendary creature. And they go and have a look at Arthurian legend. They get people to go and buy books, which I hear is good. They have words in them and stuff that you can read. Stories, I think. Maybe.
Oh, like shit films.
Yeah, no, I'm the turnable Kindles. You know.
Why?
So the problem with the questing beast is that clearly they took a character they wanted to put into the set, and then they basically just threw as many. I feel like this went right. So how many? Like, I reckon they put it on a dartboard and they just threw darts in until they couldn't get any more darts in, and then once they couldn't get any more darts in, that's when they stopped with the abilities.
I think the CEOs of Wizards of the Coast and the CEOs of Yu-Gi-Oh are having a bet
to see who can get the more lines of text.
To see who can get the smallest font size onto their cards legitimately. And I think
Yu-Gi-Oh have definitely won. We're never going to beat Yu-Gi-Oh on that front. Have you seen some of their cards? Oh my god.
Some of them, I was watching a YouTube video the other day.
How do people read your cards? They're shiny and the print's literally minuscule.
I was watching, there's a great video by the YouTuber Jay Witz who does a lot of Pokemon stuff. And he does Yu-Gi-Oh as well, and he was talking about Yu-Gi-Oh card size font. I'd go watch it. I'm not going to link the video. Do your own work, but
you need a magnifying glass to play that game. Honestly.
It was something stupid like the font size on some Yu-Gi-Oh cards is smaller than the legal requirement for some legal documents.
That's insane. That's the thing. That's how you get away with it. It's like, what are you playing over there? Oh no. Do you want to read the fine print? It's all fine print.
Yeah, it's all fine
There's
print.
no non-fine print.
I don't know what the card does. My optician has told me to stop playing this game.
So yeah, like realistically, apart from maybe the argument to say like that in the same way that they maybe put too many planeswalkers into the planeswalker set. I air quoted again. We got an air quote in this episode. So how War of the Spark was the planeswalker set and they did 32 planeswalkers in it. It still might have felt like they were pushing too much because they wanted to do the whole, like we talked about Arlen Cord.
Yeah.
It's like you needed another green planeswalker, which planeswalker we can get to put to fill out all of the cycles, you know, and have it nice and even across the colours and all that nonsense. So apart from maybe like over dilution or over saturation, like in Dominaria, I don't think there was much criticism for how many legendary cards there were because they all felt fine and unique. But you will run into that problem, and I'd be surprised if we don't get this by the end of the year, of where you kind of run out of unique abilities you can put on legends. Because eventually you just start using abilities that are already on creatures, but you just made them legendary, but you've already got a creature that does that ability. Eventually we're going to have every available ability mechanically available from the command zone.
Sure, but then they do make new mechanics most sets.
Of course, but I mean 70 from one set, a lot. So that's the only thing I think you can argue for. Like,
they could do a lot of unique stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of legends that could possibly just be, like as we said with Storev, there are a lot of legends that you could take off the legendary status of it. It wouldn't necessarily matter. But I don't necessarily
I think for me, for Storev, I was being a little bit facetious earlier, which seems to be the theme of this episode for me. The thing which I felt bad with Storev, and actually when we talk about commanders that when we talk about creatures that we do want to see as legendary, I'll actually come back to Golgari, and I'll come back to Ravnica as well, because I will talk about Azoni. But Storev hit a nerve for me, because I just kind of felt like it was a wasted slot. Like a lot of people felt the same for Zagana, the new one, Utopian Speaker. Yeah. The fact that the mechanics in that didn't seem to be as interesting, and it could have really been on any Simic thing.
Yeah. But does it hurt a card to put legendary on it? Apart from not being able to play more than one at a time?
I just think it has implications. Like the Zagana is obviously as a character needs to be legendary. I'm gonna get onto this. I'm gonna get onto this because I'm gonna repeat myself.
Because I don't necessarily think they have a quota. I don't necessarily think they have a quota for how many legends they need to put in a set. But I don't think it hurts a card to put legendary on it. Whereas I think it would also not. But in the same fashion, it wouldn't hurt the card to take legendary away from it. But the only thing is, then you take away the option for that to be. And this is probably the consideration from Wizards, is that it then takes away the option for you to be able to use it as your commander. So would they rather give more options for you to be able to use, or less options for you to be able to use? And they'll probably err on the side of give people more options. Surely more options is better.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, right, so moving past the whole legends that shouldn't be, because they weren't actually that many. Non-legends that you think should be.
The thing I prepared for.
Yes.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, please.
Right.
I've got a load that I want to breeze through, and then I've got one that I want to talk about a little bit more.
Cool.
Detail.
I have 3. I didn't think very hard about them.
That's fine. That means instinctively.
It's been stewing. One of them is definitely the last one I'll talk about has been stewing with me for a while. And actually, when I first saw it printed, I was like, "Yeah, that's a guy. That's the thing I want." But the first one actually kind of came to me in a dream. It wasn't. I mean, no. It came to me when I was researching for this episode, which is always a dream. Kuldotha Forgemaster.
Right.
So, Kuldotha Forgemaster is a 5-drop 3/5 artifact creature construct. It's a rare from Mirrodin.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the Return to Mirrodin.
Return to Mirrodin, yeah. And it has tap, sacrifice 3 artifacts, search your library for an artifact card, and put it onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. That's not really the main reason I want it to be a legendary creature. It's a tutor
effect, yeah.
It's a tutor effect, which you do have to sacrifice things for. So it's not necessarily that broken. But once you get your engines turning, especially in Game of Commander, get a little bit silly. Yeah. And it does. The reason I want this to see it as legendary is purely from a Vorthos lore perspective.
Right. Okay. I think I know what you're going to go down. So I've got a little follow-up to this. Yeah,
okay, cool.
Yeah,
so, Kuldotha Forgemaster. Firstly, its name, it's the Kuldotha Forgemaster. So, Kuldotha is the sort of great furnace area on Mirrodin. And so this is where a lot of the goblins hang out. It's very sort of rich in red mana. And the Great Forge is part of like the religion for the Mirrodin goblins. And basically what it is it is what it sounds like. It's a giant forge where a lot of Mirrodin's metal work is created. And obviously being a plane made out of metal and living metal, that's pretty important. But the idea is that any scrap metal gets thrown into the Great Furnace, along with dead bodies as well, and churned up in the molten magma. And it's not just like they're being pragmatic and recycling. It's like the essence of those metals and the essences of those bodies goes back to what they call the Steel Mother, which is kind of like the forge god for the goblins. So basically all this is to say is that this is of great importance. Constructs and sort of automaton in Mirrodin obviously have sentience, and they do have like autonomy over themselves for the most part. But the thing that really struck me about the Kuldotha Forgemaster, firstly its name. So we already know it's in Kuldotha. We know how important Kuldotha is, especially to a whole clan of people on Mirrodin. Second one is the fact that it's the Forge Master. So the fact that this great furnace and the forges in it are so important to the continuation of their religion, let alone just like the way they live. The fact that it's a forge master is pretty important. The artwork depicts it as being a bunch of arms in a great space.
Yeah.
So it's the thing that's, scrapping the metal. It's
like what's the guy in Spirited Away? In the Thanos.
Oh, yeah. Sure. I can't quite remember his name. But yeah, this idea of like something with many arms turning cranks and moving things around, very important.
Exactly.
The flavor text reads, the goblins say it used to be larger before it began to stoke the great furnace with pieces of itself. Now that really blew me away, the idea that this automaton, this construct, was kind of rising beyond just kind of basic functions. And you could argue, I suppose, that it's just trying to complete the mission that it's been given and it's trying to keep the fire stoked. But I don't know, to me, that just really sang that this Forge Master understands the sacred nature of this great forge and is even willing to sacrifice its own body to have it continue on, which to me suggests a sentience and an awareness that kind of goes beyond it just being some fucking mere.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't know, but just for some reason, everything about this card, the fact that it chooses things up, it creates as well as it destroys, it seems very godlike and it seems very sentient. And just everything about it, I just think if you made that...
Yeah, the fact that the flavor text specifically says it rather than not. It does, because there are some flavor texts that will talk about a card in like general, like they stoke the fires of blah blah blah. They could have gone down that route with and talked to them about a race, but the fact that it seems to specify that it's this specific one.
Yeah, it's making a decision.
A specific one.
Yeah.
Maybe they specifically didn't want it to be a legend. I mean, maybe this is one of the cards that, again, we will never find out because this happens all back of house and what's as they're designing and doing play design, all that nonsense. The amount of cards that might have been legends that they go, no, we need to take legendary off of that.
Yeah.
To make it, again, maybe not available in the card zone, or, for whatever reason.
Well, I also don't think, mechanically, I don't think you need more than one of these. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It gets a little bit nutty.
Yeah.
I mean, I play this in my Bruticlad deck, so I have had situations where I've had loads of tokens out that are copies of it, and it gets a little bit silly, and I do sort of think as soon as you have more than one, things start to get a bit overpowered. So even mechanically speaking. But to me, just everything about this card, its size, its artwork, its flavor text, just said to me, if you stuck legendary creature construct, the Kuldotha Forge Master.
Yeah.
That would be really fucking cool.
Well, so it's about sort of the back of this point. I mean, there's a slew of cards that have the in the word that don't that in the name that don't necessarily have the legendary card attributed to it. Also, some of the cards like Uncle Istvan isn't a legendary creature, even though I don't have.
Really?
There clearly aren't 68 Uncle Istvans out there. It's things like that of where if the card's trying to denote that it's one of a kind, it's like how Questing Beast wasn't the Questing Beast and how Feldergriff isn't the Feldergriff. It's things like that of there are some legends that don't have that titling and are legendary, but there are some creatures that do have the titling to them and then don't. Like for example, Morai, however it's spelled, the vampire from from Ravnica, where all of the other vampires look very much like your typical, hipster kind of. We go out gallivanting at extravagant events, supping out of wine glasses.
Oh sure, yeah.
Whereas this looks like what the skeletal vampire, because skeletal vampire looks really.
Oh, but then you have something like the. Oh my lord! What was the Biobox promo? Vampire.
The Haunt of Hightower.
Yeah. Fuck is going on with that?
Exactly, and the thing is, so clearly there are this type of vampires in Ravnica as well. But then when you have Moria and you do a card like this, and it looks like it should. I mean, it's not a very powerful card, so I don't think it should have been legendary. But the way that the word works and everything, there are some cards that you look at and you think that looks like it should have a legendary status to it because it's lacking, or that individualistic identity. And if it has got an individualistic identity, technically it should be legendary, right? Yeah. But this is what we were saying also a few weeks ago about if you're the only unicorn on a plane, so that plane, that is a legendary creature because it is the only horse that has a horn. Like if we had a unicorn on Earth, legendary. Whereas on most planes, unicorns, because they're normal, by virtue of being a unicorn, doesn't make you special anymore. Sure. So I guess that's the point of like what's making it special, and then whether or not Wizards agrees to allow the character to do that. What's your next one?
My next one. All right, cool. This one I'm going to keep fairly short. This one is Archangel of Thune. Yes, a 3/4 with flying lifelink. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Even the wicked have nightmares as the flavor text. This is more mechanical than flavor-wise.
Because you have more than one of them out in play and it's complete utter nutter-butters.
I mean, there's that. So it does get completely crazy if you have more than one out on play. I mean, a little bit of the flavour. So like Thune is the kind of white-aligned city on Chandalar. That's right, isn't it? Yeah, Chandalar. That was what I downed myself on. So the fact that they're the Archangel of Thune suggests that angels and flights of angels are a thing. If they're, an Archangel, the Archangel, just sounds a little bit better. Do you know what I mean? Someone on Twitter was talking to me about this, and they said, Maelstrom Archangel. Yeah. And they're right. If it's an Archangel, it should be, the card art as well seems fairly legendary as well. I mean, most angels look fairly ethereal, but this one seems like proper.
Again, the thing about if there was an angel that came to Earth, would be unbelievably legendary, but obviously in the context of Magic, that's normal. That's boring normal.
The mechanical thing, this one is kind of a hindsight thing, and I suppose you can't really. It is very bad. It's not good to compare two cards, completely different sets, completely different design teams, and completely different metas to one another. Yeah, I'm gonna fucking do it anyway. This and the new Heliod Suncrowned. Yeah, very similar abilities. Yeah. Thing gains a life. Put a counter on it. They've made this ability into a legendary creature. So I really, for me, that just kind of screams that they have this idea that, this kind of utility, especially in white, would be good to have. Maybe one of, maybe it's a little bit powerful, and especially as the head of commander deck.
Yeah, it would be really good.
This is Christmas fantasy.
It wouldn't be good, it'd be in mono white.
I mean, well, but then it would be all right in mono white, and it'd be all right. I mean, obviously, it'd be another enabler for like some combos and whatever else.
Obviously with Walking Ballista.
Yeah, sure. But I just kind of think, if this is Magical Christmas Land, if WotC was to give us the wand, if the great, gods of magic were to hand us the power and say, make one of these legendary, in hindsight, I think Archangel of Thing would be a fairly all right one to do. And my last one is Underrealm Lich.
Yeah.
Underrealm Lich. This is from Guilds of Ravnica, which had the Golgari in it. I'm just going to get Underrealm Lich up because I do want to be very specific with what it does, because this is the whole package for me. So an Underrealm Lich is a 3 generic black-green for a creature, zombie, elf, shaman. If you would draw a card, instead look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put 1 into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. So a replacement effect for drawing. Yep. You're not drawing a card. You're putting stuff into your graveyard. Yep. Pay 4 life. Underrealm Lich gains indestructible until end of turn. Tap it. It's a 4/3. It's at mythic rarity as well. And you've stayed. That's not the flavor text.
Good job, buddy.
You've strayed over Walder. That's the flavor text. Good. So yeah, the whole thing about this card is really powerful. Yeah. The art is by Anna Steinbauer, and it's just phenomenal. This is the set where we got Ozoni Thousand-Eyed. Ozoni Thousand-Eyed was the legendary Golgari creature, because they had planeswalkers and they had creatures. And if you compare this to Ozoni Thousand-Eyed, which is a fine card, and is a fine representation of Golgari culture, I just think this is just so much better. And when this got released, everyone was saying, this feels like the legendary creature. Yeah. Not only that, but if you go to the actual story, if you go to the Nikki Drayden stories, you have the story Death's Precious Moments, in which a aspiring Crowl herbologist and sort of aspiring necromancer tries to win the favour and tutelage of a new lich, which is a Devkaran elf, which is described as a lich in the Underrealm. Yeah. This is so clearly, whether that's, we've gone over this, we don't know what inspired what, but this definitely feels like it either inspired the card or the story. The card inspired the story. The card inspired the story, so. And that this should have been the one, especially as it's very different to what other Golgari legends can do. I think Ozoni, you sacrifice thing, you get a bunch of bugs. Is that right?
Yeah. You get a bunch of insects. You get one for each creature in your graveyard.
Yeah, sacrifice effect, fine, and then fine. But even the artwork for Ozoni, nothing against the artwork itself, it's fine artwork. But if you were to take the Golgari Find Broker, which is a card in the set, and put it next to Ozoni and swap those artworks around, same fucking thing.
Yeah, what's the diff?
Yeah, kind of. And I just think, the Underrealm Lich, the artwork is just bonkers good, and everything about it is really fantastic.
Yeah, I think liches in general, how many of them can there really be? Surely being a lich is quite difficult.
Yeah. This also, from a commander's perspective, you wouldn't build around this commander that much differently to how you would build around other Golgari decks. But what this would do is it would allow you flexibility to go along loads of different strategies concerning your graveyard and concerning binning cards out of your hand and discard and undergrowth. I opened this up in my pre-release for that set, and it was just, it never won me the game on its own. What it did is it supercharged the rest of my deck. And I think it would do that to a commander deck in ways that other commanders you're forced to build around to get any value out of them. Maybe it's the pay for life, it gains indestructible. This is what I'm saying about giving things protection.
Yeah, but then to be fair, there is loads of indestructible legendaries out
there. That's true. And the fact that you have to pay and you tap
nonsense, it. It's still killing you. It's not free. It's not free regeneration.
And again, I know it's maybe it's a bit tired already, but the Underrealm Lich. Yeah. Or even if you Ozoni, the Underrealm Lich. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Why wasn't that Ozoni?
Yeah, so I guess the devil's advocate point here is that maybe they want to. It creates more depth to the plane for you to think of that and then go again, like with Carnage Star, and go, oh, this isn't just the only one of this. There are more of these out there.
Now this is an interesting
point. Again presents scope essentially to the plane by going that there might be hundreds upon thousands of liches out there.
And there is so this is obviously, the whole conceit of this episode is that we get to again wave the wand and make something legendary. But I am fully behind the conceit that if you can have lots of space creatively and in your imagination, and Wizards puts in the space for you to look at a creature card and have a backstory told that is beyond what the creature is on the card.
Yeah, you can build again your own potential headcanon.
There are so many commons and uncommons that are creatures that are, say, just a knight, or the poet card from Dominaria,
Tragic
Poet, Doom Traveller, all these kind of things.
Ogre Resistor from Mirrodin Besiege or whatever, and it talks about how he doesn't have a word for home, but he knows it's something worth fighting for. And my god, the emotion that you get just from that little bit of flavour text.
You don't need I will say this now, like 50 minutes into this podcast, you don't need to make a creature legendary to make that creature interesting. I'm just saying that the creatures I've picked here seem to be so interesting. I'd really loved for them to be a legendary status, so we can have them be at the forefront of the game.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's all it is.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And again, a good argument for these kinds of cards as well is that if you're like, I really just want to build a deck around it, obviously talk to your local group. They probably should allow you to do it, unless you're doing something horrendously broken, in which case, bad person, come play with me.
You can also, another thing I found is really useful to do is if you buy a Sharpie, you can write legendary in the text box.
Nice.
And if you play with people who are fucking idiots,
they don't notice.
You get away with it.
So cheating, basically.
Yeah. Hasn't worked at RLGS yet.
No, not yet. No.
I thought I'd save that one before I get shouted at.
Oh, good.
The people we play with are lovely.
Oh, fantastic. Right, so I've got a couple of... my specific example is actually a cycle. And that's a cycle that when it first came out, I spouted a load of angry nonsense onto various forums when the set dropped. So this is from Fate Reforged.
Yeah.
And it's basically... The rare legendary cycle of Khans, and then the mythic creatures that basically both of them are single color but have a hybrid of the other two colors of the clan to activate as an activated ability. So, for example, you've got Shuyan, the Silent Tempest, being the 2 and a blue legendary creature human monk 3/2 with prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may pay red white hybrid, and if you do it, target creature gains double strike until end of turn. Now, this is obviously your spell slinger Jeskai deck. Amazing, great, fantastic, awesome, does a lot of good stuff. But then you've also got Soulfire Grandmaster, which is the mythic 1 and a white 2/2 creature human monk with lifelink. It gives instant and sorcery spells you control lifelink. 2, is it hybrid? Is it hybrid? The next time you cast an instant or sorcery from your hand, put that card back into your hand instead of into your graveyard as it resolves. Now.
And the lecture begins now.
Now let's look at the next one down. Yasova Dragonclaw, 2 and a green, legendary creature, human warrior, rare, 4/2, trample. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, you may pay 1. Is it hybrid? Is it hybrid? If you do, gain control of target creature an opponent controls with power less than Yasova Dragonclaws until end of turn. Untap that creature gains haste, threat and effect.
Which is quite interesting for a Teemo commander as well.
Not bad.
Yeah.
But then if you look at Shaman of the Great Hunt, 3 and a red. For a creature, Orc Shaman Mythic, 4/2 haste. Whenever a creature you control deals damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Ferocious, 2 Simic Hybrid. Draw a card for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. Okay. So I'm just going to run by these. I mean, there's going to be a lot of words to think of. But realistically, the point I'm getting to is that the rare legendary creature, as much as it is a cool, nice, interesting card, I love the double hybrid activation cost in the card because it's just more colours and it makes it pop a little bit.
Also puts them in a colour identity without necessarily saying that they are all the colours.
Exactly. It's a blue creature, but it's a Jeskai commander.
Yeah.
If you then look at the alternative, yes, I mean, obviously the difference in the rare and the mythic rarity shows the power jump. What I argued when I looked through all of these cards, apart from Torrent Elemental and Tasiga, and the only reason for that is that Torrent Elemental is the mythic creature, Tasiga's the rare creature, and the Torrent Elemental has flying, and Tasiga clearly doesn't look like it. He's not clearly not got flaps. Boy has no arms on him whatsoever. He's clearly not got mad flaps. Point being that all of the rares look like why is your rare cycle of interesting cool abilities your legendaries when your mythic cycle of again single color with hybrid activated cost, and then had even more interesting abilities. That's your non-legendary.
Sure.
For all of these, apart from Torrent Elemental, I said you just change over the artwork and the card names. And okay, Alicia that Smiles at Death has a specific ability tied into reanimation, but it feels like the Soulfire Grandma. It feels like they took the less powerful cards and made them the legends when they should have. And again, what I realised as I was kind of figuring out the argument is that annoyingly some of the words don't really work for it. So Soulfire Grandmaster sounds like it does what it does, but to be a Soulfire Grandmaster sounds a little bit more a bit better than the Silent Tempest.
Sure,
so
I guess.
Shuyan, the Soulfire or Shuyan Soulfire Master or something like that. And then you've got, the silent, I don't know, Grandmaster, something.
I guess if you're looking for like legendary names for things like of this theme, so a lot of it was to do with things like fighting prowess and martial arts legendary stuff, especially with things like Shu Yun or Alicia who Smiles of Death. Saying what they do actually isn't as evocative. Something saying the Silent Tempest is more like is more like a title than Soulfire Grandmaster.
Yeah.
What I think you're 100% right, though, is saying that the Soulfire Grandmaster definitely sounds like if there's 50 Soulfire Grandmasters, then fucking that's just bonkers.
Yeah.
Whereas even if there's 2, they should definitely be legendary.
You're the Shaman of the Great Hunt.
Yeah.
One of the many Shamans of the Great Hunt.
Yeah.
Like Warden of the
No,
First
I
Ring,
agree.
like,
It definitely feels like they tried to crowbar... Or not crowbar. It definitely feels like they wanted to have their cake and eat it with those cycles.
This is the thing about the annoying thing about the cycle is I love both cycles. I think they're both all really, really good. The annoying thing is you look at all the rares. Tasica's ability, quite generic. It's just put 2 cards into your graveyard and you can return a card.
Yeah.
Shuyin, it's just prowess and then prowess but a little bit different. Yusova, it's a threat effect. Dagatar, it's just moving counters. Alicia, it's just returning things from the graveyard. Brutal Horde Chief is super interesting. 3 Boros hybrid for activated ability. Creatures your opponents control block this turn if able, and you choose how those creatures block. Now that is a mythic ability, yes, but that should be a legendary ability.
Yeah,
no, I agree.
And
that's what I'm not. I mean, you would have had to have fumbled around a bit with how the wording, the vernacular works, and everything like that. But in my mind, they missed out massively in giving the legendary creatures, the much less interesting cards, and they're making also very interesting cards. But the only difference is that it's a different color, but it's still within the clan still having the other 2 colors to be the activated cost. All you've done is essentially taken the more interesting card, made it mythic, not allowed it to be your commander, and then made the more niche ability, or even then it's not even niche, it's more generic. Apart from Yusova, which I say is interesting because repeatable threat effects.
Well, it's only interesting because it's in Temur.
Yeah. But it doesn't necessarily offer anything new, anything specific. Whereas Shaman of the Great Hunt, that ability, when it's the vampire effect of when if you hit, you get a counter, and then the backup ability to be able to draw cards is so good. I think Shaman of the Great Hunt's a fantastic card. I think it's significantly better than Yusova, and it's a shame that the legendary creature got a worse card when the better card didn't get given legendary status.
Do you think it's because Khan's was from the looks of it, was a fairly top-down set?
Yeah,
so they wanted to say these creatures, these legendary creatures, what do they do? Who are they? And then they created that's what the point is, that they wanted to find really interesting, unique abilities for these mythics. They did something cool. Torrent Elemental, for example, is one of the few cards that you can return to the battlefield from exile. The idea is that you can delve it away with the soul tie ability and then be able to play it back again. I feel like if Khan's was made now, they would probably have dished out more legendaries, and that cycle probably would be
easy with it now. Yeah.
They probably would have made them legendary creatures.
And I guess the whole point maybe was because we saw the Khans in Khans, and they were the legends of that set. We've now gone, these are the Khans from back in the day. And then you go, oh well, they're not as important as the ones we have at the moment, and they didn't want to do like Khan's legendary cycle, Dragon Lord's legendary cycle,
which is interesting because in the story of
mythic cycle,
Khans of Tarkir, the ancient Khans actually play a much more pivotal role in the story.
Yeah, right, exactly, and yet they're less on the rarity scale, which makes them feel a little bit. And then maybe it's an instinctive thing of when you see a mythic legendary, it's a little bit cooler. And maybe I don't know what their justifications necessarily are, because I still think most of the mythics are better than their rare counterparts. But I think there is definitely a weird dissonance between the two when you can see they did all these cool, interesting abilities on the mythics, and they kind of went for the more generic. Like, I'd rather my legends do something really specific and unique that nothing else does than do something that a lot of other cards do, because realistically, it's probably going to make the deck feel less. It's going to feel less unique, but it's going to be more usable. Like I feel like it. Like a Soulfire Grandmaster deck needs to try a little bit harder than a Shuyin deck to be functional with the commander being your focal point. I mean, with Soulfire Grandmaster you just use Time Walk and go infinite, but you know.
Oh yeah, sure. If you're a shitbag.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Like Warden of the First Tree is interesting because it was essentially a new take on Figure of Destiny, and I thought that was really interesting. And it would have been interesting to see that was Dagatar gaining his strength as he goes. Like, realistically, Dagatar just comes in with 4+1/+1 counters. One of his Wardens not only costs 2 cheaper, but eventually becomes like an 8/8 Flying Spirit Trample thing. And it's like, well, Dagatar, like, why is Dagatar in charge of his Wardens going off?
Yes. So, yes, this is the other thing which I think is kind of interesting. And it's a little bit what I said about how can people who made Vanilla Legends not have the foresight to kind of go, oh, maybe they're a little bit wank, is the fact that when you have these legendary creatures and they get outclassed by the other creatures in the set, very much similar to my Underrealm Lich's only situation, you do sort of think, I get that you don't necessarily want every legendary creature to be the best card in the set. Maybe you're telling a story. Maybe you are telling a story, but at the same time, you know, they have to have some level of gravitas.
Squee can't be a 6/6 flying intimidate. You know, he's just going to have to be. You make his card. It's not broken powerful. It's still interesting because obviously he is immortal. So you have to find an interesting way to make a 1/1 goblin workable, because you didn't need to make him super amazing. And they said this the same time when they made the Bithic rarity, is that the mythic rarity, the mythics of the set aren't just going to be a list of the best cards from the set.
Yeah.
They will naturally have more powerful abilities. You don't want your mythics to be vanilla crappy creatures. But at the same time, they didn't want it to be all the format staples are just going to be the mythics. I guess in the same fashion, they don't want all the legends to have to be a mythic, to have to be this. Because again, you're just kind of pigeonholing yourself.
Oh, yeah, it's a balancing act. Like, we're whinging about the fact that our favourite creatures aren't legendary, and really all we're doing is we're just tearing apart any semblance of... structure they have to when they're creating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I imagine again. So this is just something I noticed because when I looked through and I looked at all the rares, I'm like, yeah, this is cool that you put your legendary. You've got a legendary cycle of the old cards, but then looking directly at all the mythics, I'm like, but these are way more interesting. Why aren't these your legends for the set? So at that point, it just kind of created a little bit of not confusion for me, but it just didn't sit right. And the thing about legends is that there is a degree of has to sit rightness to them. And again, super subjective. I can't quote for everybody, but. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through a load of suggestions that I've seen from people across the internet of cards that they think should be legendary. And usually it comes down to the fact that they are deeply resonant.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there are definitely cards that come up again and again.
Let's start on the good books with Andy Mann of imagine if they'd made Huntmaster of the Fells legendary. And you'd have had a nice legendary werewolf planeswalker.
Yeah,
You'd have been playing that for years instead of crappy Ulrich.
Yeah.
Now Ulrich, yes, more powerful, stronger, has splashier abilities. But Huntmaster of the Fells, it's the Huntmaster of the Fells.
Yeah.
How many more Huntmasters are there?
I get the feeling that if they were to do that card now, if they'd never appeared in that set, he would have been in Eldraine.
Yeah, and because he is literally the huntsman.
Yeah.
So the fact you had, your Red Riding Hood and your grandmother weren't like that was the Wizened Elder, and I can't remember her name. Anyway, the werewolf mana producer.
Yeah, there's a werewolf mana dork that has a semblance of Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was the trope between the three of them. But it felt like and if they gave him legendary, they'd have to give them legendary. But again, he was mythic, dual color, would have been an amazing legend for your werewolves in the set that the werewolves came out of. Why didn't you do that? No idea. Please answer. The hybrid avatars from Shadowmoor and Eventide, the ones that are 5 hybrid color casting costs.
Yeah, sure.
Because they're all, apart from Demigod of Revenge, which specifically brings back all the other demigods of revenge from the graveyard, so mechanically that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
All of the rest of them, the Ghast Lord of Fugue, like how many of them are there? The Dominus of Fealty. I'm sorry, if there are 6 or 7 Dominus of Fealties
Dominus
running
of Fealty
around,
definitely feels like
the overbeing of myth. How many overbeings of myth are there?
Yeah.
What's the Deus of Calamity? I'm sorry, if there are more than one Deus of Calamities running around destroying all the land, you haven't got a plane left anymore. I'm sorry, that just doesn't work. So that's another one that harkened, and also they work because they were that nice. It was a cycle, and they look really, really cool. Big one, Tamanoa. So it's a 2/4 from Cold Snap. That's Naya colours, so green, red, white and it makes all non-creature damage. Gain you that much life. So it turns all your burn spells, kind of like how Firesong and Sunspeaker did it, turns all your burn spells into life. And people have been wanting this for ages. It's a big one of the ones where people we'll probably just let it flex. It's been on Commanderverse and other random YouTube channels that want to play around with episodes and go, hey, let's use legends that aren't legends. Another one, and this is the big one, the Nephilim.
The Nephilim.
Why weren't they legendary?
Yeah.
Why? Like, they're specifically Legends of the Plane. They are the only, apart from when they release, they're the only cards in any set that are 4 colours. I'm not counting the Commander product because that's not technically a set. That's a supplementary product. It's the only set that has 4 color creatures and yet isn't. They're not. And you can't have them. Again, people do the whole house ruling at your local store. Can I just play it because I'm probably going to try and do something cool. But a lot of the effects aren't necessarily replicable. Now we've had Azada. The Ink Treader, I think it's Ink Treader? Mirror-Mad? I can't remember. Anyway, the one that reflects spells from itself onto everything it could possibly target. A lot of them have had analogs to cards that they now can do things with, but Witchmaw, Nephilim, for example, they're all very unique and have very cool abilities. And the fact they were 4 colours, super splashy, how are they not legendary? It's beyond me. The fact they're all so unique as well in how they look, they have no relevance to anything else. I don't understand how well they could be. And I think that's one of the things, if they could go back, they probably would. In the same vein of people that really want them, Maelstrom Archangel is one of them. This is from Alara, 5 colour, flying 5/5. I'm gonna have to pick up exactly what his ability is, but very again, people wanted a 5 colour legend so they could do all the nonsense they want to do, which is absolutely fine. The whole point is especially for 5-color ones. Like Genju of the Realms is another one, but that's a legendary enchantment because it turns, you can enchant a land for one of every color into an 8/12 with trample. And then if the land goes to graveyard, the Genju comes back to your hand. Okay, a little bit broken because you could probably get away with doing a lot of really broken things with it. But the fact it's 5 colors, it just looks really cool. The artwork on Genju of the Realms is so nice. It's super pretty. And it's unique. The fact you're just, imagine having what is your commander? It's the spirit of the land that just keeps coming back and animates these lands into 8/12 to smack you over the head with. That's great. Maelstrom Archangel, whenever it does combat damage to a player, you may play a non-land from your hand without paying its mana cost. So essentially it's Omniscience, but for one spell when it hits you. So it's not even super powerful, but it's the Archangel of the Maelstrom. How does the Maelstrom have a church? Anyway, I don't understand. If you're the god of the Maelstrom, you've got to be, Child of Alara is just a big crying baby, actually, to be fair. But I mean, if Child of Alara is, a legendary creature, why is a Maelstrom Archangel? There's also an argument to be said that any 5-color creature should probably be, because Chromanticore, exactly the same thing. There's any 5-color creature probably should be, arguably, because it will be so important to harken apart from Fusion Elemental. And even then, the Fusion Elemental only came about because of the Convergence, and the Convergence doesn't happen very often, so it must be a very unique Elemental, right? Anyway, whatever, moving on. The Herald creatures from Alara as well. So there were a cycle of five mythic legendaries, obviously in the first set that ever had legendaries, and they all had a creature that you could pay a load of mana to go and search out the creature from your deck and put it into your hand. And they had their own heralds. If you've got your own heralds, I am sorry, you are pretty damn good. And I'm pretty sure at that point it elevates up to legendary status. The only reason why not, because they also had a legendary cycle. Mile of the Anima, for example, is the Naya one. She was quite cool. It's like an activated ability, like 3 green, white, red. Tap her. You can look at the top 6, put anything with power 5 or greater, or a single creature of power 5 or greater into play. Whereas Godsire isn't a legendary creature. And yes, okay, the elf is a specific character, but she's just a generic elf, so doing something. How is Godsire not legendary?
Yeah.
To the people on the plane, she's just another bloody elf. Yeah, she's a powerful elf, but she's another... That thing, there ain't no more Godsires out there, apart from the fact it brings its mate along.
I mean, this isn't the case, because they've printed legendary creatures that definitely don't have this, but is it maybe that the legendary creature has to have some kind of sentience about them?
Trying to think of one. Yeah, Progenitus, does that have sentience, or is it just acting on impulse?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I guess that, the idea of sentience is obviously again pulls into the question of whether or not you are. I mean, even then though, no, I'd stand by the fact that even something that didn't have sentience can be a legendary creature. Like a Slim Voda, I don't think is going around going, oh, I wonder if I do the Sudoku today.
No, it's fine. Yeah. Well, guys, that was the cards that we'd love to see being legends, the cards that we think shouldn't be legends, and us... a
little bit of anger and waffling in the middle of all
oh man, angry waffles.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Oh man, angry waffles.
I feel cleansed.
Yeah, good.
Do you feel cleansed?
I felt cleansed before, now I feel like I've taken your burden.
Oh, okay, I'll clean you later.
Oh, please do.
Guys.
Oh, that's strange note.
Yeah, if you have any creatures, guys, that you would want to see as a legendary creature, please hit us up on Twitter.
Or any legends you might expect to find come out in Legends. We already know about Baron Senga, we already know about Jeska. So what other things do you expect that we might see from back in the day? Don't say Yorgmoth as a god, Deathcloud. That's just not going to happen anytime soon.
At mtflavouring is the Twitter handle that you need to send all that to. If you want to at us about anything you're upset about, you can get Nathan at The Fox in the Moon.
If you want to cheer Andy Man up, you can find him at Andy Manface.
Very good. You saw where I was going with it. Very nice. Emails go to mtflavouring@gmail.com. Guys, there are lots of great Vorthos content creators out there. I just want to give a shout out, basically, to no one in specific, but if you are enjoying what you're listening to us, then and you're enjoying listening to two grumpy, whiny English wankers go on about this, then please open your fucking brains and look at people who are actually a joy to listen to.
Yeah. A lot of the reason why we do this is because they did it in the first place. So.
And we thought we'd just copy them. No, it's because we thought we had our own voice. But sometimes our voice can be a little bit grumpy. And if you want to have some joy, then there's plenty of other people out there.
Exactly.
But really, this is all to say, guys, that the Vorthos world is large. And it's only going to get larger this year. There are going to be loads of legends coming in, as Nathan said. So yeah, open your third magic eye and get stuck in.
And the important thing is keep calm and carry on. In this current climate, people have forgotten that.
Yeah.
So be happy, be safe. Important disclaimers.
And wash your hands.
Yeah, absolutely wash your hands, you dirty bugs. If you weren't doing it before, what's wrong with you?
I mean, there is that.
Yeah. Why we suddenly all run out of soap? It's like, what were people doing before? Licking their hands like animals? I saw my cat doing it and he's really clean. I thought that was the right thing to do.
Thank you very much for listening, guys. This has been Magic the Flavouring.
Yeah, see you soon.